Okay, good. Awesome. So it is now officially 2-0. Well, hold on.
Three,
3,
two,
2,
one.
1. 201. Okay, good. So we are going to dive right into this guy. So for those of you who are kind of new, or maybe you caught the event we had on Thursday, or you possibly even just saw one of the emails we sent about doing a ranking Q&A, whatever you're coming to us for, even if you're here just to attend and hear other people's questions, or you've got your own, welcome to part 1 ranking bootcamp Q&A. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Curtis Johnson. I'm the president of Managed by Stats. I am joined here with Danon, who we just changed your post title. What is it now? Who are you?
VP of Marketing and PR.
It's so bad that I have to ask you that question mid a Q&A.
First
question answered. It's good.
What's funny about that too is that I started out at Managed by Stats with Justin, so I'm a whole new person.
You're a totally new person now.
Yeah,
that's right. And we are also joined by Mark Jepson. Well, I pointed over here because that's where he is on my screen, but that doesn't mean that's where he is on your screen. But yeah, he's all over the place, right? Mark Jepson is the COO of PPC Logic. And then we are also joined, for me, by Rob Kaplan. Rob Kaplan is the CEO of PPC Logic. So we are excited to kind of dive in and answer any questions. We have about, how many was it, Danon? About 15 questions that we picked out of nearly the 40 or 50 that you guys sent in via email. Mainly the reason we did it that way is there were about 15 of those questions that really are just earmarked for part 2 and part 3. If we answered the questions here, it'd take hours because they're questions that are designed for us to answer when we hit part 2, which is going to be this Thursday, and then part 3, which is going to be the Thursday following. So a big chunk of them were just sort of content that we're going to be covering a little later. And then also a lot of you guys had similar questions. So we kind of just grouped a couple of those guys together. Additionally, I'm sure some of you guys have questions that you want to ask us here on the Q&A that you just brought with yourself. But yeah, so we have at least a good 10 or 15 questions, I believe it is, of questions that we got from earlier. Other than that, what we figured we'd do, Mark, if you want to just kind of do at most 5-10 minute recap of, I would say closer to 5-minute recap of what part 1 of the trifecta is of this ranking bootcamp. So we kind of have everyone on the same page. But again, guys, if you have questions that have nothing to do with the ranking bootcamp, no problem. Ask away, not a problem at all. So with that, I guess we'll all stay on screen. And Mark, over to you.
Cool. Yeah. So just a quick recap of part 1 of our boot camp. We, for lack of a better word, I thought up a trifecta because there's 3 key points that you need to have when doing your Amazon listing and getting it ready for PPC. In order to have effective PPC, you need to have some key points in order for that to happen. And so we went over the first point of the trifecta, which is basically making sure that your listing itself is fully optimized, not just the images or having an enhanced brand content or something like that, but also making sure that your Amazon SEO, the keywords that you have in your listing make sense for your listing and have a high search volume. So we went into detail about that, actually going through finding the right kind of competitors for you, for your product, and then taking from those competitors using a reverse ASIN tool. In this case, we use Managed by Stats, Keyword Scout, and doing basically a very thorough analysis of what keywords are your competitors showing up for, what do they rank for, but also making sure that those keywords actually have high relevancy and high search volume. So, you might have a competitor that shows up for some keyword that isn't really relevant to your kind of products, but they're ranking really well for it. You don't really care about that. You want to go after the ones that are very relevant to your product and make sure that those keywords have a high search volume.
And
So
if I could
that was
just interject here real quick, Mark, I'm
Yeah.
sure most people know what it is, but if you could just in case define SEO for people.
Absolutely. So in this case, it's search engine optimization, right? So on Google or online type stores, you want to make sure that your product or your store can be found when people do a search on Google or any kind of search engine. And the same, some of the same thought processes also apply on Amazon. So in order for someone's looking for a bike pump on Amazon, and they search bike pump. If you don't have that search term in your listing, then Amazon's not going to know that your product is relevant for that search term. So that's kind of the SEO aspect of making sure your product is findable and is able to actually show up for those searches. So that was basically the bootcamp step one of the trifecta. And we went over a lot of that in detail, the different little nuances of how you find your competitors, what kind of stuff you go through when looking at those keywords. Yeah, so I think anything else I missed on that, Rob?
Sorry, Rob, you're muted, but also I have a question here. Where can people find video or number one of the trifecta of the bootcamp?
I will pull that up right now, and I'll throw it in the chat for everyone. So Perfect. You'll have that in just a second. But otherwise, if you're seeing this recording, if you go to YouTube and just search for managedbystats.com, you'll see it's the most recent video that we put out. So you can go here. I'll just walk you through literally each step. So Managed by Stats in the search field.
Also, Curtis, when we, as we do the trifecta and do each segment, we'll list the previous replays in the emails and
for sure.
Also online for everybody.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if someone just happens to want to have manual instructions, so you would just go to our homepage on YouTube, go videos, and you'll see it is the most recent video now, but obviously that's as of July 27th at 2:08. So it will be one of the most recent depending on when you're watching this recording. But yeah, we'll make sure that each part of the bootcamp, 1, 2, 3, and each of the Q&As are up on YouTube, so you can always get to them. So there's that, and then otherwise, I will pull this link up for you guys and throw it in the Q&A or the comments. I can't remember which one it is on Zoom.
Just make sure you've got panelists and attendees.
Yes. Yeah, will do. Okay, perfect. So obviously that is like the 5-minute reduction version of an hour bootcamp. So if you did miss that, I would highly suggest going and watching that on YouTube. But otherwise, Danon, why don't you hit us with
well, before you do that, go ahead, Rob. Follow up. Before you guys jumped into that, we were in the middle of just quick recap, finishing the recap. Yeah. The only other thing that I would add, Mark, is that while you were talking, I don't think it's anything that you missed, but something that came up from one of our clients, because they said, is it, and it kind of plays into this, there's a romance period, as we all know, the honeymoon period, as they call it, when you set up a product in Amazon. And people, a lot of times, they want to hurry, they want to rush, they want to get their product up and going. Think, oh, let it start to propagate, let it start. That's a real dangerous move. And the best way to think about it is kind of like a muscle memory. So like Mark was talking about, that the different steps from competitors and analysis and finding the top money, SFR, keywords from the reverse ASIN, using Keyword Scout and Managed by Stats. All these steps are critical. If you skip anything or rush and think, oh, well, I'll set up my listing and then I'll add my images and then I'll set up this or set up that. What you're doing is you're creating a bad muscle memory, because now all of a sudden it's launched, Amazon is looking at it, the images aren't that great. It's almost like you get a little report card internally. The algorithm sees you and it's, this site isn't that good. Or you start getting some traffic and you don't convert well. And you figure, well, I have one image, I'll add the rest next week when they're done. Now you just converted and cemented that muscle memory of a bad conversion rate. And so now you're coming out of the box with a bad conversion rate, and already you got an insurmountable start, because it's hard enough to launch and start. And now you got all these negatives. So you don't really want to start. Don't rush into it. You want to have, as Mark went through in the recall, you want to have everything done in the optimization. So every step is there. So you step forward looking as great as you can look. Then you know that your keywords are being indexed. and you're coming up in the search, your images are awesome, and you're ready to move forward. So I would say that please don't jump the gun. I know a lot of people say, I've heard this so often that, oh, I got my main image in and I'll add the rest next week. Don't do that.
You sound like what my wife has been saying to me for years. I'm the guy that's like, just get a title in there. It doesn't matter whether it's English or not. Just get it in there, get it up. She's like, nope, you do it right the first time. I'm like, no, do it right the second time. Wrong the first time. Get it up.
Right. So, yeah, do it right the first time, because Big Brother is watching. Amazon is definitely watching. So, and also, guys, that we believe that the what people call the honeymoon period, this romance period, this is very true. It seems as the algorithm rotates and gives new listings an opportunity to, so to speak, show themselves, to see, do they rank? Do they deserve to be on the first page, the second page? Where do they play? So they'll rotate new titles in. That's why a lot of times when you're doing the analysis that Mark described in the recall and also in our first segment, when you go to look for those competitors, sometimes you see a competitor that just doesn't look like he belongs. The price may not be that great. He doesn't have a lot of reviews. It could very easily be that Amazon just rotated that into the cycle and he's there on the first page. Come back tomorrow or the day after, he may be gone. So that's another reason why you want to make sure you're careful in the competition selection to choose competitors that match in price, quality, and the amount of reviews. But
Awesome.
that pretty much sums it up. I think once you get all those pieces together, you're ready to start. You're ready to go.
Perfect. Okay, good. So then any other catch points that we want to handle before we dive into questions? I think we're pretty good, right?
I think we're good.
Okay, Danon, question
All
number
right.
1, hit us.
Ashley, putting in exact phrases to the title can look weird. Can I put in other words between the words in the phrase I want?
Okay, so she's probably putting in multiple phrases in the title, and then if you don't figure out how to make that read smartly, then okay, can she put keywords in between the phrases to make it sound better? Yeah, Rob, you touched on that in the training earlier. What do you think is the best way to go about that?
What I do is you could do this in a Word doc, and or you could use the tools in Managed by Stats. I like to sometimes use a spreadsheet where I'll take a title, I'll copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste. So I have a few lines, all identical, the title, and I start massaging the words. And what you want to look for is you want to grab the best phrase, your top SFR, and good search volume of a phrase, and find the most powerful phrase, the strongest phrase, and try to use at least one whole phrase in its entirety. Usually phrases will do better in their entirety, but you can't use 5 or 10 or more phrases. Obviously, you'll keep repeating words and phrases, it'd just be weird. So what you want to do is choose the best phrase. And then that's how you start off with. And then you take all the other phrases. You want to keep the order of the words in the same sequence and try to merge the phrases so that you can sometimes take out the similar words and merge them together. So 3 phrases may be one longer phrase where it kind of says it properly. It's good English, it's good grammar, and it says it all, so that you can then look at the phrase that you end up creating. And you could say, yeah, if you skip words in the middle, you could say, yep, I got this one covered and this one covered and that one covered. And you'll see that, yeah, the phrase you created, which is a merging of a couple of phrases, actually has all of the words in it of maybe 3, 4, or 5 phrases. And little by little, you work through the rest of the title that way. And what you're going to find is you probably can only get one really great phrase, and the rest you're going to have to do what Mark said when he repeated the question is put words between the phrase. What's critical is that the words must be in the same sequence and order as the phrase that you're trying to emulate, that you want that power of that phrase in there. So you need to have the words in the same order. If the words are out of order, it's not the same.
Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Anything to add to that,
Mark?
then?
Yeah, anything to add on that one?
No, that's a very, very good answer. And I think that perfectly lays it out. Nothing else to add to it.
Cool.
Perfect.
Okay, next question is from George. Why can't I just grab the top 10 competitors who are showing up for a search term?
Yeah, so that's a good one, and we covered that a little bit in there. So again, that's what Rob just touched on is you might find, what I was mentioning in the previous webinar is that Amazon's broken, but really it's because you have these products that are in that honeymoon period, or for some reason are pushing really aggressively on ranking or whatever it is, and so their product is showing up, and they could be the number 2, number 5 listing for that search term at that time, but really they could be a slightly different product, or a a product with very small reviews, and then might not even be a really well optimized listing. So it's smart definitely to go after, okay, what are the most relevant products to ours, or to yours? And there's slight variations. The thing we were talking about earlier was these whiskey glasses, and you have different types of whiskey glasses. You could have a low ball, a high ball. You could have a little decoration crystal type look on them, or just plain. You could have a very thick bottom type. So you want to make sure that when you're optimizing your particular thing, if you're going to try to find a little niche that will get you a lot of sales, you want to make sure that you're comparing your product to similar products, not just the one that's number 1, which could be a crystallized one when yours is not crystallized, right? So you want to make sure that the match is apples to apples, but also that those products are, they have a lot of reviews, or they have some, good ratings on their reviews, and a similar price range. So you know that your product's going to be similar to theirs, and you're going to be finding that they're going to have the most relevant keywords, and since they've been doing it for a while, you know that if they have a couple hundred reviews, they've probably sold 3 or 4 or 10x that amount of products, because not everyone leaves a review, right? So yeah, that's the answer to that.
And just to fine tune that, I think your example with the glasses is excellent. That if you look at that deeper, an example would be, you use the word whiskey, and you'll always see, like you refer to it as Amazon's broken. It's not that it's broken necessarily, but there's the algorithm that's going to pull certain words. So it would almost be like, and not that I've seen this, but I've seen similar, where you go to look for whiskey glasses, whiskey cocktail glasses, and you actually see an ad for whiskey. And it's like, well, it grabbed that word. Maybe it's there now. It may not be there in 3 hours from now. So, well, obviously, you're not going to take a bottle of whiskey as a competitor. Now, that's extreme. But right, you will find other things like that, where there's an obscure product that you look at and go, oh, okay, yeah, it's got a similar word and maybe 2 or 3 similar words. But no. That is definitely not what the searching population is looking for. So you don't want that. The other thing that Mark mentioned, which is critical, is you want to make sure that you get pulled into the bucket of search so that you could be in that sandbox, that you can play. So you want to be careful with when you make the determination too narrow. So if you only went by price, and let's say someone has a better price than you, they may be ranking so well because of price. So if they're at $9.95, maybe it's a cheaper product, maybe there's something about it, or maybe they're dumping product. So they're at $9.95 and you're at $19.95. Well, they're going to rank really high, probably because that low price. You got to look carefully. Do you really compare to them? Do you want to be compared to them? Do you have similar keywords to them? And maybe they're just there because of price. And that's where you got to really think about it and read their listing. See if it appeals to you. Does it make sense that it's in the same universe as your product? And if not, don't include it, especially when there's so many others to choose from. You got plenty that are there. So you don't want to choose the wrong competitor and end up with words that maybe they're ranking for that are meaningless, that's going to misguide the algorithm and pull you up when you don't belong to be pulled up. So for instance, another word would be plastic versus the other products that are, let's say, glass and breakable. Maybe something's non-breakable. If you get in the wrong category, and when customers see you and that's not what they want, they're not going to buy you. So what happens? Now you have a bad conversion rate. So you want to make sure that you're also finding like to like, so that you're in the bucket with the right amount of company. Now, some would rationalize, but if a plastic or something that's glass, it's still a whiskey cocktail glass, don't you want those same keywords? Maybe, maybe not. And again, if there's plenty of others to choose from, why take the guy that's an outliner that doesn't match what you are? And there could be reasons that got pulled in the bucket. So these choices are real critical. I don't want to overemphasize it, but this really is critical because why? These are the keywords you're choosing to rank for. You choose the wrong competitors, you're going to get the wrong answer. You're going to get the wrong words. So again, it's real basic, is just choose like for like, stay within the family, and then obviously choose players that look like they're doing well.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right.
One thing, if anyone, like we obviously have many participants on here, but so we don't know really, there's many people that could have asked this question. So if you have a follow-up on any of this stuff, feel free to just let us know, just as like an aside. But otherwise, roll, go for it.
Cool. Yeah, for the record, when I search for Cruvina whiskey glasses, as soon as Amazon Basics blended whiskey comes up, I'm not buying it. All right. Next question is from Jerry. Do you guys suggest having the trifecta points in before getting started with a service like PPC Logic?
Yeah, definitely.
That would be like the question before, that don't start premature. And we know that just in your case, listen to your wife.
Yeah, I mean, I think
anyone on here listen to your wife, but
literally, right?
Anybody that's on this, listen to my wife. All right.
No, I think that the key point there is, in addition to everything we've just gone over, like you don't want to, if you're going to start advertising, you want to make sure that your listing is going to be able to convert. And you don't really want to do a lot of advertising, which PPC Logic, our system is going to be testing a whole bunch of things really fast and just going, pocket to pocket. So yeah, you definitely want to have your listing optimized, all that SEO work done and input into your listing, and make sure you get some reviews or ratings in there so that when you start to advertise, you're more likely to get sales, conversions that are going to be in a good range.
Yeah.
Now there's kind of a caveat to this, because so we've obviously gone through a lot of clients with PPC Logic. A lot of them obviously are still with us, but some of them are not. And we kind of determined that there are two main reasons for that. And they both kind of have the same sort of benchmark of, usually the people that didn't last were below $20,000 a month. And the reason for that is just, one, they either didn't have their kind of like what we're talking about. They weren't PPC ready. They didn't have those SEO points in order to really convert when traffic is driven to their listing. That's kind of that major point. But then also if you don't have enough revenue to really kind of get the ball rolling, that can be another problem. So we've been working on our own solution of that. So if let's say you're below that revenue point, or you feel like you do need help with your listing or with targeting the right keywords, because let's be honest, you could have gone through the full part one of this trifecta and gone, yeah, that sounds great, and I have no idea how to do that. And if that's you, managedbystats.com/consulting services. We'll obviously throw it
-services, I think.
Okay, yeah. Can you just double check that really quick?
Yeah, sure.
I think you're right. I think it is consulting-services. But we can do two things with you guys. So if you want just an analysis, our team will analyze your listing. Even if you are, you've got A+ content in there, we will look at that side of things. We'll also do a keyword analysis in kind of the way that we're talking about here, so that you know exactly what your money-making keywords are. So yes, PPC Logic is kind of above that benchmark, but we will help you below that benchmark, whether it's just because you want to solve that problem or because you want to qualify for PPC Logic. Also, what we'll do, and this isn't limited to keywords, listings, any of that stuff, we have an ongoing consulting service. So if you want to get an hour of coaching a month to make sure that you're handling the right strategic target, go to that same page, and it'll send over your info to our team, and we'll get you kind of rolling with that kind of stuff. So we're not just trying to kind of give you a problem here that there's no solution. So there is something that you can do if you do need help on that.
Yep. And I put that link into the chat, but it is consulting services with no dash. So managedbystats.com/consulting services.
Perfect. Okay, good.
All righty. Ready for the next question? Okay. Arthur asks, should I put long tail versions of the top keywords into my listing or just the exact short version of the top keywords? Good question.
Yeah. Rob, you want to take that one?
Yeah, it's you actually want both, but the long tail is always great to have, because if you start ranking for it and it has the root in it, which is that shorter version you're talking about, you're going to automatically end up including and getting that as well. But if I was designing a campaign, when you say whether you should use it or not, if you have a long tail phrase, a medium phrase that let's say has 4 words or more, and it has the root in it, and you can use it effectively in a title, absolutely use it, because then you're going to be getting both automatically. So I would do that. And then you could take the root and use it in a different phrase, find another mid-level or long-term, long tail phrase, and use that in your bullets and description. So there's some relevance, it's being repeated, but yet in an intelligent way. You don't want to be keyword stuffing, but you want to use it as if it was natural to use. So you could also use different phrases, and the different phrases will definitely give emphasis on those different phrase long tails, but at the same time, the root is the same. And although you don't want to overly repeat, in those cases, that's okay. And it actually makes a nice blend.
Awesome.
Very good. All right, so the next question is from Jerry. Should I start an auto campaign when first launching a product, or wait until I've done the trifecta, the three-step?
Damon, these sound like fake names. Are you making these up?
Yeah, they're all made up names. Nobody's actually here. And we don't appreciate you people putting your questions in.
I'm just kidding, sorry.
Yeah, so the answer to that is kind of twofold. Definitely you should do the optimization steps first before you do an auto campaign, because the auto campaign is going to be basing, when it finds and searches for keywords to show against your product, it's going to be doing that based off of what it sees in your listing. So it's definitely smart to do the points in the trifecta first, at least that first and second point that we're going to be going over next week. But yeah, it's definitely smart to do that first so that your auto campaign can be finding the appropriate keywords for you and targeting those and trying to get conversions on them.
Excellent.
The only other aspect to that would be, and it's kind of maybe a variation of that question, is if you've done the first step of the trifecta where you've gotten all your listing fully optimized, and you might not have a bunch of reviews yet, okay, if you want to get things started, you can do an auto campaign. It's usually better to not do that and just first work on getting at least 5 ratings or reviews in. But sometimes you just can't do that. Maybe you don't have, friends and family that will do that for you or whatever. So then, okay, you can start an auto campaign and try to get some sales, even though it's going to be at a bad conversion rate, bad ACOS, most likely. Spend some money, allocate some money to get those reviews in, and have some kind of the email auto review or review request system set up so that those sales that you do get an email from Amazon saying, hey, rate this product, and hopefully they rate your product. So it depends on if you don't have that kind of scenario where you can get in some 5 reviews within the first week of launching your product.
Cool. Now you just kind of glossed over this, and I just want to verify. You said have your auto review system set up. You are, of course, referring to that system within Managed by Stats, right?
Yeah. So Managed by Stats. There's other extensions from other companies that can do it as well. But inside of Seller Central, there's a little button that you can press to request a review for each order. And so there's extensions that will do it automatically for you. Inside of Managed by Stats, we don't have an extension for that. We just do it automatically through the API. So you can set up a little automatic thing says, okay, for every order, click this button as long as they haven't refunded, or as long as they've spent more than, you know, a blah amount of money, to make sure you're not, you know, requesting reviews for people that got a huge discount or whatever. But you can set that up and have that start triggering for all of your orders from the get-go.
Cool. Yeah, minor point, we're the best. Okay, next question from my made-up friend, Sharon. What's the best sequence to put keywords into the different parts of your listing?
Yeah, so this is probably this.
Hold on, say that one again. Sorry, I'm trying to think with that.
Sure. This is from my made-up friend, Sharon.
Made-up friend. Okay,
yeah. Good. What's the best sequence to put keywords into the different parts of your listing? I'm assuming she's talking like a hierarchical.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of back and forth on this over the years. And there's some complexity to it. So I'll kind of give my 2 cents, and then Rob add to that or change what I say. But my thought process is your title is going to be the most important. So you want to have the most important keywords, like Rob was saying. Try to get the top phrase in there, and then the other phrases, if you need to, you know, intersplice some other keywords between them or words between the phrases, then great. But the title is going to be the most important SEO point, right? Where Amazon's going to see if you are relevant to those search terms. After that comes your back-end search terms field. And this is where it gets a little bit complicated, maybe. What I try to do is I try to have, you have only 250 characters in your search term field that you can use. And with your title, you have 200 characters. People don't visually see your back-end search terms. Amazon sees it for the SEO aspect. So what I try to do is I try to get the phrases into my title first, and then any keywords that maybe don't have multiple phrases or multiple words in the phrase, like single keywords or just two words in the phrase, then those I'll try to put into the search terms field second. After that, I'll then go into bullet points, getting as many phrases into the bullet points, and then the description. And then after that, there's a field called subject matter, which is in the back end of your editing your listing. You can generally get 5 other key search phrases in there as well. So that's kind of what I'm currently knowing as the priority or the sequence of how you should get keywords in there. Rob, any variation of that or additions to that?
Well, you said it's kind of a complex question, so we can make it more complex. But I think that the tool itself is one of the best ways to do this. I think if you use the MBS tools in the back, I know they're similar, but I think that when they're composing it, again, after doing this for so many years, you and I know we do a lot of this on the fly, but by using the tool, you may want to walk through that, Mark, because using the MBS tool where you input the bucket of keywords and from there you write your title, you know you've got that great phrase that I was talking about that starts your title, whatever you're going to use, and then you mix up words to make sure they're in the same order but include all of the words. But what Mark said is critical. A lot of people, and for a long time people thought that the back end, either they ignored it or they thought it was, kind of an add-on if you want to. But no, actually what we've learned is the back end keywords, like Mark said, is more powerful than the bullets. So I would make sure the title, which is the most powerful, is massaged and worked the way we both had just said. Then words that are left over, you put in the back end, and you don't have to worry about grammar. You don't have to worry about the way it flows because you're not speaking it. No one's reading it. It's just critical keywords. And then the bullets, you definitely want to have your keywords in there, but those should really be with a heavier emphasis on copy, because that's really the key bullets that you want to hit home with. And it's believed from the heat mapping that's used on websites that many people believe they probably read the first, maybe the second, and the last. So you want to think that way. I wouldn't put your bullets in order of first, second, third, fourth of importance. I would do the first and then the last as the most important. And in the middle, you're filling in with the theme of what are the critical things you want to say in your bullets that highlight the benefits, not the features, but the benefits of your product. And then, of course, where you can, incorporate your keywords. But where the power is going to come in, and I wouldn't worry about repeating anything in the bullets, but where the power of your keywords are going to come in is between your title and the back-end search term.
You know, and an interesting thing that we were just talking about the other day internally, Amazon just increased the number of bullets you can do. So it does sort of change things, because before it was 5 and I think now it's 10.
Yeah.
So they've fully doubled the number of bullets that you can put in there, which here's the way you've got to look at this, right? Amazon's only going to do something that results across the boards in increasing sales. So obviously that tells you that bullets, probably more so than description, actually are these points where you can kind of hit some of these value add points of your product. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of priority of which one's first, second, third, fourth, I get that would be a key point to think in terms of what Rob said, first, second, last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing my screen. Is it showing up?
Yeah, I see it.
Yes.
I see it here.
Okay. Yeah, so just to kind of give you some visual of what we were just talking about there. So you have your title. You know, we can show an example here. We'll just do plastic wine glasses. So we'll just pick one of these guys, any one of these, this guy here. So this is going to be his title. He's got the bullet points right here about this item. And then down below here, they should have a description, product description here. All of this.
I have a theory that most people are going to the bullet points for the product description as well. I think that might be a contributing factor to increasing.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you're talking about 48 plastic stemless wine glasses.
Right.
It's an interesting move on Amazon's part. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they minimize the impact of the description and or move away from it.
Right.
Or maybe eliminate it sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Well, talk about an area where people make strategic mistakes. Like they think description, oh, I can stuff a big old paragraph in there. So what does that do? That makes it so it's unreadable. So that's probably why they're giving bullet points, because that guarantees that bullet space bullet more readable.
Yep. So yeah, so you see here title, bullet points. Down here at the bottom, we have search terms. So this is going to be inside the back end of your editing your listing. And then you have description and then subject matter. So you can see, you can kind of put in some phrases in here of what kind of subjects. You can find search terms that are kind of subject related. So that's definitely a smart area to kind of fit in a few more keywords that you weren't able to get into your title, bullets, and search term fields. Yeah, so that's that.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Okay, good. Yeah, because I also promised everyone we'd try and keep this in the hour range. So how many more questions do we have that are pre-formed? 3 more, and then one of those is one of the questions that we have on here, right? From the Q&A.
I don't.
Yeah, I think the third one you have on there is the Q&A. Either way, whatever.
Right,
let's go with those 3, and hopefully we cover those 3 in 20 minutes, because we kind of had this whole thing at the very beginning. They were going to try and keep this to an hour for each of these parts.
I believe this next question is a rather fast answer. John asks, how do I know if Amazon sees that I have a keyword in my listing?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways to do it. The manual way to do it, probably should just share my screen again.
Well, the indexing tool is probably the fastest. If you want to show that first, I mean, you can do this manually, but
yeah, we see your screen, so you're all good there.
Perfect. Yeah, so in Managed by Stats, we don't have necessarily an indexing tool, but we can see if you're ranking for something. So we can see if you actually show up for it on some kind of organic ranking. You can see that using Keyword Scout. So I think I have, So here we can see like this product here, this little blue one up here at the top. That's this first ASIN position. So we can see I'm showing up for this product, and this one, I'm either not showing up for it or I'm not ranking for it in the top 20 pages. So this is one way of doing it. It's not necessarily the most accurate way to see if you actually are indexed for a keyword.
Mark, the quick comment on that. The one thing about Mark's technique is when you don't see the word, and Mark said, well, you don't know if it's indexed, maybe it's not, maybe it's indexed, but it's not ranking. But at the end of the day, you see the reverse, you see the good stuff, you see the positive.
Yeah.
You know, if it's ranking, it's indexing. Now, here's the thing about what doesn't show. If you can't find the word, like Mark said, that means it's possible that it's indexed but not ranking, or maybe it's not even indexed. But guess what? That doesn't matter because the fix, the solution is the same. You better start doing pay-per-click for those words to get them to rank, to get them to index. And whether they're ranking and or indexing or not ranking or indexing, again, the way to fix it is the same exact solution. You've got to start marketing and telling Amazon, hey, hello, these words belong here. So you do that through pay-per-click, or if a word is really critical and you believe this is a very strong word and you're like upset it's not being ranked, you can move it to the first position in your search terms. And that's another way to speed it up and tell Amazon, hey, this word belongs here. But you'll also find that one of the best ways is by making sure it's in your pay-per-click advertising.
Right. Yeah, so then just the organic kind of way that this is done, if you just go up here and do a search for your ASIN and then put in plastic wine glasses, then that'll show you if your product actually shows up here, then you know that your product is indexed for that keyword. And you can see this one is, so it shows up.
Type in one that would not show up so they also see an idea.
Like a totally irrelevant phrase. Yeah.
So there we go, bike pump.
But show it the back. No, go all the way to the top. Go all the way back up to the top. Oh, I thought it used to let you know that nothing found.
Yeah, it used to, but they don't show that now. So you just have to see, do you show up for it here? 14 results. Are you?
They probably figured they're losing page value, so they showed something.
Yeah.
Clearly, this wino isn't looking for wine, but a bike pump.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Anything else on that one? I think we're good, right?
Okay, yeah, I think that's good though.
Just a really slight quick mention on this. We've also got the keyword tracker. So if you know all your keywords, you can see your exact position on that too. So that's another way that you can be searching and ensuring that you're ranking for something. But you know, that takes a little bit more time than a quick search. Okay, cool. Question from Ahmed. When putting words into keyword tracker, how about that? Should I just do the main keyword or also the long tail versions of it? Maybe we should show keyword tracker.
Sure.
No, I don't know if you don't really need to. That's a real basic. You want both because they both can have totally different results. And you need to know both if it's if they're important keyword and keyword phrases, you need to know both.
Okay. Well, good. That's a fast answer.
Aren't we is part 2 diving in more on that stuff too anyways?
Absolutely. So
yeah,
like that we covered covered the 3 parts of the trifecta earlier. Yeah. That is part 2 is seeing, now that you have all that SEO done for your listing, seeing where you rank on those things. And we're going to go into detail on how to analyze that, how to think with all that data in preparation for your PPC.
Yeah, that's probably why we gave a little bit of just like a bit of a gloss over answer, because we have almost basically an hour to possibly more of content to cover on the subject of keyword tracker and analysis.
Yeah, we're good on that. I think because that's a real basic quick answer for that. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, in that case, the last question is from Susan. What's the best approach to getting ranking on key? Yeah,
sorry.
The last question is from Curtis's mom.
Not really, but
what's the best approach to getting ranking on keywords that we had ranking for before, but do not have ranking on them currently?
That's real basic. There's some muscle memory within, let's say, up to 60 days. So when you say before, that range really depends on what is before, 6 months ago, or whether it's a month ago. Amazon has all search term data within the last 60 days that it keeps that's very relevant. So if you were ranking, let's say a few weeks ago, and let's say you ran out of inventory, and then very common problem, and now you restock, right? We've all faced that, and now you're back up and running. It's like, whoops, there's a keyword that fell out of favor, which it could happen. You may come back pretty quickly, but there could be 1 or 2 keywords, let's say, that were let's say it's not an indexing problem, but if you're in a very competitive field and you're at the top of the mountain, you lose your inventory and you're out of inventory, for say, for over 2 weeks. The keywords that were actually ranking the best, some may hold because they were super strong, but if it's very competitive and you got other sellers pushing to grab those positions, you may have been pushed down to way lower down where you're not being picked up on page 1, 2, or maybe 3. So a fast solution is very, very aggressive pay-per-click, overbidding, even if you're up to 100% ACoS, where you assign a small budget to it, and you're willing to spend that amount of money as an investment to aggressively pound away, getting clicks and clicks and conversions to get back up on the top of the hill.
Cool. Yeah, that happened to us with vitamin C once.
Perfect.
That's it.
Okay, good. So, awesome. I hope that anyone who's watching this got some, good questions answered. Again, we had a bunch come in. Here's the thing, guys, though, if there was something where, let's say you're watching the replay and you obviously can't jump on and say, hey, I wanted to ask about blah. Again, reach out to us at support@managedbystats.com, and we will happily kind of drum up an answer for you. Or if we see enough people write in about it, we'll throw a video on social media to, answer your question. Otherwise, again, we have on Thursday at 2 p.m., we have part 2 of the ranking bootcamp. So we're going to kind of take all the foundation that we set up on part 1 this last week, and we're going to dive into, okay, what is this next step? Because the way you got to look at this, guys, we've structured these in this way because you can do the actions that we covered on Thursday. And then by the time you hit part 2, you're actually ready to use that information. It's kind of like a course that's well structured. If we give you everything all at once, what tends to happen is you get a little overwhelmed with everything that there needs to be eventually, which is more than you're even ready to handle. So if you haven't watched it, dive back over to Thursday's webinar. Again, it's up on YouTube, search managedbystats.com. I just switched it, so it's now the main video you'll see up on there for anyone who is already subscribed. If you're not subscribed, hit the video tab and you'll find Ranking Bootcamp Part 1.
Also,
Otherwise,
Chris, yeah. one other thing. I think that because of the way we're laying this out, it's not even a question of all of what you just said, but also the fact that if you guys work along with us, you have the opportunity to see, is it working? And you may not have a question. You may just implement it and think, okay, I'm doing this right. I don't have a question. I'm doing what these guys told me to do. But then you see, uh-oh, it's not working, or there's a problem. Then you may have a question. So in any part of the trifecta scenarios that we're laying out, if you have a question from 1 or 2, and yet we're all the way down to 3, that's okay. Also, bring your questions in any one of the segments, and this way you could watch along. But another thing that this does for you is this becomes like a checklist. You could rewind this, run it through. You could watch it. Did you do every single step? And if you do, you really should see the results, because these are really not that complex, and it follows a lot of logic that if step 1 is good, then step 2 follows, and step 3. And when the full trifecta is up and running, you'll see tremendous results. And if you don't, this way you can go back and check, did you leave something out?
Yeah, it's true. Because it really is like that. There are so many sports analogies I think of where it's like you have these 3 basic parts, and together they, do wonderful things, but separately and only done one of the 3, it really isn't, you're not going to get that desired result. So make sure to catch part 2 and then part 3. And we're here to help you guys as well. Reach out to us at support@managedbystats.com. If you're interested in working with PPC Logic, like if you're hearing kind of these strategies and you're like, these guys obviously know what they're doing, just head over to ppclogic.com and we'll happily kind of walk you through the process, see if it's something that fits for you. Otherwise, catch us again Thursday for part 2. I think that's it. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds
perfect.
Good. Thanks, guys.
Okay, guys. We will catch you in the next webinar. Take care.
Bye-bye.